Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar. This is brought to you by the IIAT and Wingman Insurance. My name is Ellie Feldman. I'm the Managing Director of Wingman Insurance, and I have with you our Chief Underwriting and Growth Officer, Brad Shrum, who's going to help.
Everybody.
He's going to help tell everybody what ransomware is, what you need to know, and lots of interesting stories, claims examples, and details that'll help you get a handle on it. As a housekeeping matter, if you have a question, please put it on the screen that you see in front of you. There are some handouts throughout. We encourage you to download them, and that includes the slides from today, because if you'd like to use them for your own purposes, we encourage it. And finally, if you have any follow-up for us, please chat into the questions area or email us, and we'll have our contact information at the end. So with that, let's get started.
Okay, Ellie, thanks. So I thought on the first slide, I would use a little humor to start, since ransomware is not very humorous. But you can see here that you have a kitchen and full of various electronics, and everywhere they're asking for ransom. So that's what you're seeing today. So I thought I would start off with a little fun joke. I'm not going to read through it, but you can. So why are we here today? We're here to talk about ransomware, which is the #1 peril or loss leader in the cyber industry and growing very rapidly. But you'll see on this slide gives you an overall view of the 10 reasons why cybersecurity should be the top priority for any organization, I would say, in 2019 and beyond. And you could read these statistics for yourself, but you'll see that the rise in cyber claims is growing rapidly. Next, please.
All right, Brad, so we understand the risk. I think maybe we need to back up a second and really dig in. What is ransomware?
Okay, Ellie, what is ransomware? And I'm not going to read through this thing. What I'm going to do is tell you the difference between ransomware and extortion, because there is a difference. Ransomware is a type of malware that locks a computer system down until the victim pays the extortioner for the key code to unlock the device. It's an obvious form of cyber crime. While some internet criminals try to go below the radar, most don't. And then extortion is simply demanding a good or service or payment to prevent violence or destruction of property. So very simply, extortion is a credible threat of an attack, where ransomware is an attack with the intent to collect the ransom. Please understand those differences, because some policies may just pay extortion where others may pay both. So there is a distinction between extortion and ransomware. So that would be my walkaway point to you, the difference between the two. Okay, thank you, Ellie.
All right, so how does ransomware work?
Well, what I call this slide is the anatomy of a ransomware attack and how it works. And you can see, it's a little busy slide. It's a busy slide here, but you can see what happens. And to make it real simple is you have a hacker that goes online, and next thing you get the little skull, as you can see in the middle there, saying that there's a demand for ransom, and if you don't pay, that all your computer systems will be locked. And that's how, and then the next step is they want it paid in Bitcoin. And that's an important point as well, which we'll get into. But Bitcoin is, where is the client going to get Bitcoin from? And there are federal laws regarding Bitcoin, because you could be paying China, Iraq, or firms or companies or individuals that are criminals, and so the FBI has to get involved. And if you don't pay, what can happen? Usually your encrypted files are lost, and if you do pay, they usually give you the key to unlock it. So we'll get into more statistical information on the next slide.
Okay, that's important. So let's talk about some ransomware stats. Like, what are you seeing? What kind of what does a ransom demand look like these days?
Great question, Ellie. Thanks. The average cost of a ransomware attack is 133,000 and rising. Uh, we've talked to many carriers, and what used to be 10, 15,000 now, as an average, is now 133, and that continues to rise. I'm sure all of you on the call have heard the news reports about ransomware attacks, and the demand for ransom has greatly increased. And that is in the second bullet point, that ransomware attacks have increased over 97% in the last 2 years. And I would bet you that will continue to rise in the next few years. A new organization will be hit every 14 seconds, and increase to every 11 seconds by 2021. The average downtime, meaning a customer who can't operate, is 9.6 days. Now, some of the industries that are targeted, but that does not mean others are not susceptible to ransomware, would be professional services, healthcare, consumer services, real estate. And I would tell you, I'm starting to hear more with construction. Every business is at risk.
And
Every single one.
manufacturing, lots of manufacturing lately. And
Yeah.
look, we were at an IIAT conference earlier this year, and Brad and I were standing there waiting for an underwriter to have a meeting, and lo and behold, he's on the phone agreeing to pay $900,000 to a ransomer for a small business. Luckily, the business was smart enough to get $2 million limits, and they paid the ransom, but it was an absolute catastrophe. And as the underwriter put it, he has to make these calls every single day. It's absolutely fascinating. The risk is not going away. And as you can see, it's about more than just paying the ransom. It's about the business interruption of the 9.6 days of downtime and many other things that Brad, I'm sure, is going to talk about.
Yeah. The ransomware is costing businesses billions of dollars a year. And you'll see here, Wingman has come up with a key fact sheet that you can share with your clients. If you're not or if you are or want to become an agent who represents Wingman, you'll have the ability to use this slide right here and put it in your own name. But I would tell you, focus in on ransomware with the clients. Another statistic before we get to the next slide is about 70% of claims today are first-party claims, not even third-party claims. So you will see that the majority are first-party. People don't even talk about liability. They talk about ransomware. Thank you, Ellie.
All right, so what is the overall financial impact of a ransomware attack? What do we need to know? How wide does it go?
It goes very wide, Ellie. One, it's the ransomware payment. As we said, the average is 133,000. And secondly, even more importantly, business income from a reduction or a shutdown of the business. As we saw, the average is 9.6 days, but you're going to see in a few minutes that many businesses are shutting down or have been shut down for good. There's also the reputational harm that the insured may incur. So let's suppose that that clothing store had a ransomware, they were shut down for 10 days, and now people are saying, I don't want to go into that store because my information may be hacked. There could be potential for liability claims. So if you have an insured that's running an operation and the third party can no longer operate their business because of our insured, they may encounter a liability claim from the ransomware. And last but not least is could shut your business down for good.
Now, look, Brad is appropriately not trying to scare you guys too much, but that last point's an important one. We've seen a number of examples, and the news has brought out a number of examples of businesses where the owners have said it's going to cost too much money to get back up and running. I'm not paying the ransom. I'm just going to close the business, which
Yep.
is insane. But that's why your clients need to buy the cyber insurance, because they don't have to worry about that. All right. So what do you do if you think you've had a ransomware attack, or you know you've had a ransomware
Yep.
attack?
Very good question, Ellie. First and most important is you want to call the breach hotline because your business is on the line. You've just been breached or you've just been ransomware and you don't know what to do. We would tell you to tell your insurance, don't even call the agent to start. Call the breach hotline. And that breach hotline is you're going to have that breach coach who's the quarterback of the claim. They have the ability to get Bitcoin. They have the ability to get forensics involved immediately. The breach coach takes over and works with the client. As I said, they get various professionals involved immediately: forensics, law enforcement, information technology, possibly accounting. But they have all the resources to get to your client immediately. They
It
will
sounds like
deter.
it gives
Go ahead,
somebody a
Ellie.
lot of peace of mind as well, because they don't have to worry about how do I manage this process, because the insurance company is going to hold their hand with the breach coach to help them figure out what's the best course of action for them.
Yes, and more importantly, they're going to determine quickly if the ransom is real or not. There's some fake hackers out there, so they're going to determine immediately if this ransom is for real. They're going to get into the computer systems and check. The insurance company is going to negotiate with the hackers. You're insured, or you or us are not. As Ellie said when we were at the IIAT conference, one of the insurance carriers was negotiating with the hackers to pay them, and they will negotiate with you. The hackers, 99.9% of the time, they want cryptocurrency slash Bitcoin. And why is that the case? Is because you cannot trace cryptocurrency. And then more importantly, we want to bring back your client back online as soon as possible. That is the key to get them back in business.
Okay, so now that we've effectively scared everybody to pieces here, let's give them some examples of real life ransomware stories that have happened across the country that they can use to explain to their customers why this is such a huge part of the risk profile of any business today.
Sure. You'll see here, and again, we're not trying to scare anybody, we're just giving real facts, that a Michigan medical practice folds after a ransomware attack. And you could read through this, that they just couldn't afford to pay them. I just read two other articles the other day that said the same thing, and that were targeting medical practices, and they just couldn't do it. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be big business like Walmart, Bank of America. That's not who these hackers are targeting these days. But you'll see here a practice folded after a ransomware attack.
Yeah, that's a good example. So what are our takeaways from this specific example?
Great point, Ellie. Monetary damages may be small, but the fallout is huge. Sometimes, in fact, often paying the ransom can be the best play. And I think a lot of you have heard the back and forth. Should I pay it or should I not? Should I do this? I'm of the opinion they should, just to get them back in business. A good cyber insurer will pay the ransom when it makes sense to do it and it's legitimate. And a good cyber policy would have walked this company through its option and helped them to make the most prudent decision whether to pay that ransomware or not.
All right, so give us some other examples.
Yeah, here's another one. Two companies, a business in Boredom, Ohio, reportedly paid a $75,000 ransom in Bitcoin to unlock its data. It was discovered on June the 10th when a manager received a fax demanding a ransom to unlock its computer system, which were encrypted. They contacted an IT firm, which used a third party to pay the ransom to the hackers, and told the police that the hackers went so deep into their system that it took until Wednesday to access the system. They reported a loss between $30,000 and $50,000 per day as a result of the attack.
Wow. So again, it's much more than just paying the ransom. It's about the lost income and the reputational harm because everybody now knew their names, and
Yeah.
not in a good way. Okay, give us one final example.
Yeah, and for our IIAT folks, maybe you've heard of this. All of Texas, 22 cities and towns were hit with a ransomware attack at the same time. The demand was for 2.5 million. What was affected by this? Birth and death certificates, inability to pay utility bills online. Breach came within from an IT contractor who worked with many of the municipalities. So I'm sure our friends in Texas, all of you have probably heard about this, or maybe it's affected you personally. They're still determining how widespread the costs are. And again, so that hits right at home in the heart of Texas.
Let's say your town was or was not hit with the ransomware attack. Can a municipality buy a cyber policy, Brad?
They can. So your municipality, they are an eligible class of business.
And I venture to say they probably should.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like we've covered what ransomware is and what it means. How do we know that that a cyber policy we're selling for our customer is a good one?
Yeah, I think some of the points all of you need to look at is, one, does the carrier have a breach hotline? You know, where the insured can immediately get to someone to help them versus they've got to go to their agent, report the claim, then it's got to go through the process. Or the carrier doesn't have expertise in handling ransomware claims. You want to make sure that the carrier is responsive, that the policy is written with the carrier handling the claim. That's really important. So you have good connection to the carrier and the insured. As I said at the beginning, make sure the policy includes ransomware and extortion. Make sure the carrier has the ability to pay in cryptocurrency. And make sure that the policy includes direct and contingent business income coverage.
And I'd also venture to say, make sure that the company has paid ransoms before. And that's one of those tricks with not using outside claims handlers. If they're using outside claims handlers who are incentivized to keep claims low, are they authorized to pay the ransoms? Are they working with the FBI to make sure they're doing so legally? All these things are very important.
Yep. Thank you, Ellie.
Okay. So what actions can your clients take to actually reduce a ransomware incident?
Yep, here's some things, is back up your systems locally and in the cloud. One of the major ransomware issues is they back it up on the same network. So try to have the insurance back it up on a separate network that's not connected.
So that means the backup wouldn't have the ransomware on it as well, correct?
Correct. And that's the second point, is segment the network access. Limit what the hackers can access and what they can't. Block them off. Have an early threat detection system. Install anti-malware ransomware software. Run security scans frequently. Train your employees and educate yourself. And think before clicking, which I don't, What'd you say?
I said those last two are huge, especially coming into the holiday season. If you want to do something really valuable for your insurance, have a lunch and learn where you teach them how to talk to their employees about not online shopping at work on work computers. Because so many websites on social networks and everywhere else are infected with malware and can get that malware on the work computers. And so that would be incredibly valuable for any customer heading into the online shopping holiday season.
Good point. Now, I thought another funny cartoon that's so real. In this corner, we have firewalls, encryption, antivirus software, and in this corner, we have Dave, and he says human error. The majority of claims come from human error. So you could say on the left-hand side, the IT department says, we are locked down, we are ready to go, we cannot have an incident, it won't happen. Well, we will tell you that is false, because when you take Dave on the right-hand side, it happens. It happens a lot. You cannot control human beings. We click on things, we do things, we make mistakes. So you could have all this security and it may not mean a thing unless we're training our employees and doing things of that nature. So I thought I'd end it with that. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you are not an IIAT member, or if you are an IIAT member but not signed up to access our platform, all you have to do is give me a call or email me, and I will get you started and work with Lisa at the IIAT, Lisa Webb at the IIAT, to get you signed up. You automatically have access to our program. We'll take you through it, because everything we spoke to you about today is things that Axis Insurance Company, who is the provider of this product, can do. You can rate, bind, issue, direct bill, all within 2 minutes. And many members of the IIAT are using the platform, but many more can use it as well. And ransomware is not an if, it's a when. It truly is. And to protect your E&O as well, you probably want to quote this on every account. So with that, Ellie, I'll turn it over to you to see if we have any questions.
Guys, chat in your questions on the screen in front of you, please. We want to answer all of them. If we don't have time to get to any of them today, we'll be sure to email you after. I'd also like to note that the recording of this will be available after the session is over. You'll get an email tomorrow with the link for the video. But there are some people that have already let me know that they would like a copy. So that's good. And then the 60-second plug while you guys are typing in your questions for Wingman. It's an online process, 6-question application for insureds under $100 million in revenue. It is the fastest, easiest, most efficient way for every agent in the state of Texas to add a cyber quote to each and every one of their commercial insureds. As you're coming to the end of the year, you're looking for ways to grow at the end of this year and into next year. Cyber is the way to do it. So let us help you do it. All right, first question. When an insured calls the insurance company hotline to report a breach and it's found out is false, is the insured charged with the claim? It's a good question, Janine.
First of all, the first thing that the breach coach, first you get a first free hour is free to determine if it's real or not. We would tell you probably not.
We have a lot of $0 claims for that very purpose. They investigate and find out it's nothing.
Yep. Good question.
They were asking how to best to back up their files on a physical external drive. We would venture to say backing up to an external source in the cloud is your best option. And I say that because we had a claim scenario once where a construction firm backed up on USB drives and physical drives, and a disgruntled employee stole the data of 75,000 current past employees. And it cost them millions of dollars, and that was the physical drives and files, not anything in the cloud. So I would say cloud's probably your safest bet if you're segmenting it completely from your primary. What is the stats on businesses infected with ransomware and their IT successfully getting around the ransomware without paying?
That's an interesting question, because most of the time, what we see, Ellie, or our person who's has the question, is we see it when it gets to the point that they're ready to pay. That it's reported to us, I guess, because they haven't been able to overcome that internally. That's
well, and I also say not everybody has a cyber policy yet, and not every state is legally requiring businesses to notify customers or the government if they've had a ransomware attack. So that means that our data is skewed heavily on knowing only that which we are legally obligated to know, which is people who have had insurance claims before. So I don't think we know on that. We can say though, Tina, that when you do pay the ransom, there's like a 99% success rate of getting your data back. when you don't pay the ransom, the only examples we know of, for example, that doctor's office and the city of Baltimore, ended up being multi-million-dollar losses that caused absolutely catastrophic results. But I don't have any better data for that. Question from Mercy: is cyber insurance only for commercial policies, or can you do personal line cyber as well? Brad?
Well, it's for commercial at this point. We as an organization are looking into the personal lines. That is an excellent question and something we are looking at. But as of this point, it's for commercial only. It is for all industry groups are eligible. Can't say, well, right, every industry group. All industry groups are eligible except for cannabis.
And then we got one last question, which is perfect. It's teeing us right off. I joined the webinar a little late. Are we able to quote this coverage online? Why, yes, you are. We have built a piece of software that makes it easier than ever to quote cyber insurance specifically, and other lines are coming. So if Donna or anybody else wants to join the Wingman team, we'd absolutely love to have you. All IIAT members are not just welcome, they are VIP. So please call or email Brad. His information is on the screen, and we'll be following up with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Brad, for all of your amazing information.
Oh, last question, Allie.
How will the ransomware issue be resolved if carriers continue paying these thieves? Look, I don't know that we know, but we got to work with what we've got. And my guess is this is a cyber insurance fad like social engineering was 2 or 3 years ago. And I guess right now we can hope that a new fad will come in, which is both terrifying and not so bad all at the same time. But that's why we're here to keep you up to date on the most recent cyber trends and make sure that your insureds are covered. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody.